right. So we are live, but not in the group yet, interestingly. And so we're connecting with Facebook producer. And it looks like it's starting to work. This is good. This is good. Things are working. So we're live, and I'm posting it in the group. So I'm just going to go ahead and save the changes. And let's see. Here we are. All right, everybody. I'm Telman Knutson. I'm here with Sally Hogshead. We are in the process of going live for a Fascinate AMA. Sally, are you stoked?
Yeah, I am totally stoked. I'm ready. I'm just gonna get it out of the way. I'm a Virgo, so we've got the first question handled.
Awesome. And okay, sorry for the delay. Okay, post details complete. Go live. And I think it should be going. We'll see. Okay, I think everything's working. So Nicole, if you see this live in the Facebook group, can you give me a double thumbs up? Boom! All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right, welcome everybody. My name's Telman. I've been working with Fascinate for about 8 months, and I'm super stoked that Sally is here today for our first Fascinate Live AMA. Ask Me Anything. And this is going out to a bunch of different social platforms, including our Facebook group, Fascination Nation. And we have a bunch of people, a bunch of Fascinate fanatics that wrote in great questions.
Yeah.
We have more questions than we have time to
thanks
answer.
for doing that, you guys. Yeah.
So Sally, how's it feel? How's it feel to be on your first AMA?
I mean, isn't it funny that I'm still an AMA virgin this whole time? For some reason, I've never actually done it. And one of the things that I have missed now, having been on sabbatical for a while, I've missed the opportunity to connect with people and hear the questions and hear what people are thinking, and being able to share. For me personally, to have that feeling of it's a conversation, and I've taken some time off and been spending time on really important family things, and so I appreciate everybody giving me the space. I've had a lot of wonderful messages from people, but now it's wonderful to be back and wonderful to be with you, Telman.
Awesome. It is great to be here. So we're going to jump right into questions.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Ready? Okay, cool. So we have some deeper, complex questions, but by people who've clearly been studying Fascinate for a long time and are deeply invested. And we have people who've asked questions that are a little bit more early on. So they're all across the board. We have questions from people who've read the book, people who've taken the test. We have questions from Fascinate certified advisors. We have we have questions from people who've bought some of the higher level products and programs. So quite a few different perspectives here. I think Doug Robinson has a pretty cool basic question.
Right. Rob.
Doug says, how to use the people's champion to the fullest in a sales role. And he happens to have a MA in behavioral psychology in his
well, that's a great question, Doug. The people's champion is an unusual combination, because your power advantage allows you to be focused. You have opinions, you can lead, you see the goal. But with passion, that means you bring people in. So what I love when I'm working with people's champions in a sales role is that they have genuine enthusiasm for the product or service. They connect in a way that makes it feel like you're naturally in the conversation with them. But with their power, they have an ability to close the sale. Power is the number one advantage for people in sales. The number two advantage that we see across our research is prestige. But the fact that you have power and passion means that people are going to like you very quickly, and that you're going to be able to engage with them. Now, here's something that you'll want to watch out for. A lot of times in sales, the way you were probably taught was that there's a right way to sell and a wrong way to sell. And maybe you were even given a script for the product or service that you're selling. And I want to tell you, take that script, throw it out the window, and look at what you're selling. What gets you totally fired up with jazz hands? You know, what is it that makes you fall in love with the product? Because when you communicate that way, you're not necessarily going to be following the 3-ring binder that you were given with your behavioral economics, but you're going to create that bond with the consumer that goes far beyond being able to push the bullet points of results and deliverables of the product itself. If you're not having fun, they're not going to either.
Awesome. Awesome. Great question. Awesome answer. So if you're watching us live and you have a question for Sally about Fascinate, the Fascinate system, how Fascinate works, your primary advantage, your secondary advantage, your archetype, your dormant, how to use Fascinate with teams, yeah, all of these types of things, please, how to apply it, something that you're confused about from the book or some of the other material
Do I really have a dog named Bob Ross, and why do I collect taxidermy like that?
Also appropriate, very appropriate. I guess I didn't realize that your dog was actually named Bob Ross.
Yes, that my dog.
I thought maybe that was like a pet name for the pet, like not actually I didn't realize that was your dog's actual name. That's great.
Actually, I think Bob may need to make an appearance at some point. Yes, he looks like Bob Ross, and so we had on his booty, we had a palette, like a paint palette, you know, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, painted, and then his tail is the paintbrush, and his face is very Bob Ross-ish. He has a goatee that's about this long, not quite as long as your facial hair, Tillman, but getting close.
One day.
I mean, a dog can dream, right?
That's right. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and so if you guys have questions, ask them in the comments below, and Nicole will grab them and stick them on our question sheet, and we'll do our best to answer them either today or in a future AMA. So get ready. Okay, this one's from John Volp. John says, if my primary advantage is trust and my secondary advantage is alert and my archetype is the good citizen, if so, I'm interested in hearing your answer. What would be my anthem?
I love good citizens, and I want you to think about the name that I created in doing that. The reason why you're named the good citizen is because you have a great conscience for being able to make sure that the way the team proceeds is done with integrity. It's done with consciousness and intention. So when we look here at the good citizen, what's really sexy about the good citizen is that people rely on you. They know they can trust you heart and soul. I mean, if we were going to bisect you, you are who you are, John, all the way through. I don't know if Tillman has mentioned, but I haven't done a live StreamYard or webinar for 2 years for Fascinate. And what's funny is, I'll be honest with you, John, because as a good citizen, I feel as though I can trust you. I had to go back and look at the matrix myself, because normally it's like all of this is downloaded in every cell of my body. As the good citizen, your 3 adjectives, you probably recall, are principled, prepared, and conscientious. So with your anthem, I'd like you to be thinking to yourself, which one best describes how you add value? Principled, prepared, or conscientious? Now, I'm not looking in the chat. Otherwise, with my ADHD, I'll start answering you there. Let's go with principled. Here's the question I want you to ask yourself, John. Are we living in a time in which a lot of people are not principled? Tillman, what would you say? Are there a lot of people who are not principled?
I feel that their principles are fairly weak these days. I feel that there are a lot of people have weak values, morals, and principles. They're very wishy-washy, it seems like.
And would you say, Tillman, aka John, you're doing a great job of playing John, by the way, Tillman.
Thank you.
Would you say that when things are in a chaotic state like they are today, where we have uncertainty around the financial markets. A lot of us feel a sense of just not exactly sure what the next steps in our career are going to be. Is it important to have principles that are consistent and steadfast?
So important, and that's exactly the time where it's easiest to let them go under stress
Mm,
and duress, right?
yeah.
When we're feeling frantic and we're feeling overwhelmed, it's like,
Mm.
it's easy to like forget about doing that thing, even though it's difficult, but it's the thing you should be doing anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like dental work,
yeah.
Flossing is
My dad's a dentist.
flossing isn't the razzle dazzle of your day
Yeah.
when it matters. And so John, as you're thinking about your anthem, it's not just words that you're putting together. It is what you can provide to other people's problems. People have a big problem right now that others are not principled, prepared, and conscientious. So I want you to think of this phrase. There's never been a time in which it's more important to work with someone who is, and then fill in your adjective. There's never been a time in which it's more important to work with somebody who's principled, because we live in a chaotic and uncertain world. I, John, will deliver principled, prepared, and conscientious results that you can count on because I'm steadfast and I have the ability to deliver consistently. Now, any archetype can take that same formula that I just described. What's the problem? What is the solution that you deliver? But then how do you do it differently? And the way you do it differently, John, is you solve problems by being principled, prepared, and conscientious. Now, we haven't touched on the second part of the anthem. The first part is the adjective. The adjective is how you are different. The second part of your anthem is what you do best, meaning your area of highest delivery, that space where you know that you can tackle it. So that noun, it might be results, might be relationships. So assuming that we took principled, it could be principled results or conscientious relationships. You don't have to use it on your LinkedIn profile, although you certainly could. But every time you communicate, I want you to look at your principled, prepared conscientiousness as the filter through which you're talking. So you're not going to be describing to clients that you've got the new, the pizzaziest social media solution, and I can finish your ideas in 24 hours or less. You want to make sure that you are standing out. Because a concern that I hear from good citizens is they say, well, I just don't feel like it's as memorable as the rock star or the provocateur. And I'm here to say, no, the world has never needed principled, prepared, conscientious connections like they do right now.
Like people you can rely on.
Yeah, people that you can rely on. I mean, yep. I in 2006 when I knew I wanted to write a book, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to write my next book about, which ultimately became the first version of Fascinate. And there was a study from BBC that like really caught my eye that I read in The Economist, and it was due to social media, people have fragmented attention spans that might be as short as a goldfish, 9 seconds. Now, by now we've all heard that, but at the time, that was actually
Yeah.
that was new information. That was kind of mind blowing, and people have come out with studies. Microsoft says it's 6, and Twitter/X says it's 3. Whatever the attention span is, we can all agree that we're living in a fragmented world with too many options, and we're overwhelmed. You don't have to be the first one to get attention by jumping up and down, screaming in someone's face. Consistently proving that you are principled, prepared, and conscientious is rare and intensely valuable in a distracted, competitive, commoditized world.
Absolutely true. Watch that again. That was really, really good. I loved seeing how you put that together, Sally. Very, very cool.
Tillman, I'm going to jump in just for a moment so you don't to explain. Do you ever? So I had COVID a couple of weeks ago, and
Right.
it still has a scary saying. I have COVID. It still sounds scary because we got that limbic system built in. So it only lasted a few days, but now I have that long COVID thing, and I'm so thirsty. So you'll get to see I have like 3 backup waters.
Great.
My protein shake. I've got my vitamin water.
Nice.
So cheers to you.
Cheers. Got some bone broth.
Bing.
I'm about to go do my first fast, Sally. I'm going into the woods for 3 days with my men's group, and it's going to be a camping water fast.
Wow, I hope it doesn't turn into something like that movie Alive where they all ate each other.
Yeah.
By day 2.5.
Great. I'll take video. All right, cool. So Jennifer Kate says, "Wow, welcome back. I love your book.
Yay!
Great. Christy Marie." Actually, Jennifer Kate says, "I wish I could stay. This just came in. I have to go. Good luck. I'll try to come back and watch
Jennifer,
later.
I'm glad that you
take care of yourself." Cool. So, Christina Mysteri. Is that right?
Dormant trust. Ooh, I'm going to love this question.
Yeah.
Okay. Bring it
on. Good morning. My dormant is trust. My primary is passion and power. People buy from people that they trust. How do I use it? And then she says, people's champion.
Love a good people's champion. Power, passion. So here's the thing about trust. The word trust is so loaded with so many connotations that if I had to go back and rewrite the system, I would change the word trust to something else, because trust is a neurological response based on consistency and predictability. You might love your mother's spaghetti sauce, not because it's the best. You love it because you're familiar with. In fact, the word family comes from familia, meaning trust. I'm gonna get to it, but I want to contextualize this because there's a huge debate about trust in the Fascinate community and the use of that word and how loaded it is when somebody says they have dormant trust. We all know the movie It's a Wonderful Life. When that movie first came out, it almost bankrupted the studio because they had these great stars and it was a high budget film, but it was a complete box office flop. In fact, the director was so embarrassed he took his name off of it, and they took It's a Wonderful Life and they put it on the shelf, and it lived on the shelf gathering dust. Nobody watched it. Nobody knew anything about it. And then in the 70s, the copyright expired. And so television stations, all 3 of them, could play it for free. And so they played it round the clock, and suddenly it became entrenched as the definitive Christmas movie. And so a lot of us have this Pavlovian response to watching It's a Wonderful Life. Well, let's be clear. It didn't win because it was the best. It won because it's the most familiar. And so the reason why there's kind of this paradoxical downside perceptively from having a dormant trust is that it's easy to think that means that you're not trustworthy. In reality, here's what it means, and you probably know this since you've done the test. It means that you dislike repetitive, redundant tasks. You like to open up possibilities. That's your passion coming through. And you like to be able to move through and make decisions with confidence. That's your power. I score dormant trust. Most creative people score dormant trust. And so, like I was saying, if I could go back, I would call it, instead of trust, I would call it consistency, repetition. I would call it stability. But the use of the word trust is loaded, especially among like HR gatekeepers. So as you're thinking about it, I want you to think to yourself, how much do you hate doing the exact same task over and over again? How much is that not the highest and best use of your time? It's not the highest and best use of you. Like, think of you as a triangle, okay? Here are the things that anyone can do. This is the triangle for Stanford University. Being smart, not interesting. That's, like price of entry. being smart is not a differentiator. Maybe here in this triangle of Stanford grads, here's what you do, your skills, your network, your reputation. But at the very top, at the tippy top, there's this part of you that defines you. And it is not, my friend, redundant tasks. For you, it's being able to bring people together to shape opinions and create action. So forget the word and instead embrace the fact that there are people like John, our good citizen that we just talked to. He loves to be able to shape a feeling of familiarity and bringing people in through consistency. And that's why the two of you would probably work really well together. A people's champion and a good citizen are so different that they can support each other and turn to each other with consistency and passion.
Awesome. 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 All right. I hope that was helpful to you, Christina. Let us know what you think. Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to answer a question here from Grayson Fox tuning in from LinkedIn, and then we're going to do a lightning round because we have some super fans who wrote in some super questions and lots of them, and so we're gonna try to like crank through a bunch of them and with like 30-second answers.
Yeah. Hi, Grayson.
Before we do that, if you have a question for Sally about Fascinate, ask it in the comments below on whatever channel you're watching this on. Nicole will find it. She'll put it on our questions doc, and we will do our best to answer it today or in a future video. So ask your questions now while they're in your mind and you're excited. Don't wait. With that said, Grayson, you're up next. And boom, as a catalyst, what are some good ways to navigate transitions in work that put you in a role that requires a lot more stuck behind the desk work? Question mark. Sad face. And what are the most ideal roles and positions for a catalyst in the workplace?
Well, I too, as a catalyst, first of all, Grayson, high five, or 10 in this case. I battle with this every time I have a request from a client or a team member or like my kids that they want me to do something that's essentially behind the desk, which is the spreadsheet or going through a zillion emails or a cut paste kind of a task that deeply uninspires me. That's a quicksand. Whereas a wellspring for a catalyst is to start and initiate and stir up a little trouble. The reason why I named our archetype the catalyst is because in science, you probably remember this from probably 3rd or 5th grade, a catalyst is an agent that starts something. So here are 3 things that you can do. First thing you can do is that you can discipline yourself. Okay, I have to do this, like going through expenses. I mean, for me, it's doing the 10th edit on a book when the editor comes back with feedback and I just want to like jam my pen into my eyes. I mean, it's ready as hell because you're fixing something over and over. So you can discipline. Okay, I got to do it. We're going to do an hour of power. Second thing you can do, you can delegate. And by that, I mean, it could be outsourcing, but it could be like we were just talking before, where we had a good citizen and we had a people's champion, where you can say, look, okay, let's do a swap. And on my team, there are tasks or projects that really fire me up, that I love taking on and carrying that responsibility and accountability and deliverability. So the third thing you can do is a bit more controversial, and that is to delete those types of things. Now, I'm not saying you quit your job, although if you're uninspired, you're not offering your highest advantage, you're not making you're not adding value in the best possible way. But let's say you can't quit your job, then deleting it. Let me give you a description. As a catalyst, when I work, say I'm going and I'm giving a big speech and like, there's this like warm, fuzzy, excited, jumping up and down, free bird, and like, don't mess that up. So I walk off stage, and then sure as the world, I get home, and it used to be my client would say, okay, now give me all your receipts. And it's like, oh yeah, where's the hot dog receipt from the airport? And it gets dragged down with the minutia of what is the equivalent in speaking of desk work.
Right.
So I just changed the model and said, we don't do expense reports. Everything's on a flat fee. You're never going to see receipts from us because Fascinate as a company, and certainly me as an individual, we are not going to be able to over deliver in areas that require us to have redundancy and heads down, getting in the weeds, task orientation. Now, for you, what you could do is anything that comes across your desk, help the team around you know that you can over deliver in the area. Remember, here we're looking at our archetype matrix. As a catalyst, you can over deliver by being out of the box, social, and energizing. And here's what that means. If there's a status meeting, that you're going to be able to bring an enthusiasm that's infectious for other people who are doing the same task. You could also go to the decision makers and say, I can absolutely accomplish this, but I think there's another level up. How could we turn this into a PR effort or marketing? How can I bring the team in to engage them? Sometimes a catalyst would do this, say, in a financial organization, which they tend to be a little drier. They do that by saying, well, one guy described to us how when they're going late, everybody's tired and depressed, he hands out Red Bulls to everybody and they put on a song and they're jamming. Now that might seem like it's superficial, but that is not a soft skill. That is helping your team by investing in their ability to pull things across the finish line. So discipline, delegate, delete. Those are 3 options. And if you have others, I'd love to hear.
Awesome. We are getting a bunch more questions coming in from various social media channels. We'll get into those in just a minute. We're going to do a lightning round with Renee.
All right.
Renee, okay. if you're live with us, I really hope you are, because you're about to get like a bunch of stuff. All right. And Sally, if there's anything that you, or whatever, we're just going to go through it and I guess like answer to the best of your ability.
All right. And I mean, we can put the second A in AMA for anything. I'm game.
All right. Great. All right. Hi, Team Fascinate. Thanks for the invitation and the opportunity. I started writing my reply. I have so many things I want to discuss. So I believe that Renee is from the Netherlands. I believe she's Dutch.
Oh, cool. We're going to be there in December. I'll send you a wave hello.
Cool. And so there will be a video replay, certainly in the Facebook group of this, and probably wherever you're watching it too. Okay, so this is research, a few research-based questions, Sally.
Ooh,
so
okay,
number one.
I love it.
Okay, so yeah, let's do like 30-second answers. So the fascination system was developed based on the insights from the Kelton studies done in the U.S. I get a lot of questions about the scientific basis of the system. A, is it possible to receive the initial research, so not only the conclusions, but also the research design? And B, the initial names of the advantages have changed over time. Is there still investment in testing that the insights remain accurate? If so, how?
Can we do them one by one?
Yeah.
The first question is the scientific validation, and the original research was done by Kelton Research, which that the CEO is now married to Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook, just to show you the credibility of the research. And it's like this thick. I mean, trust me, you don't want the whole thing. It's going to crash your computer. But when we looked through these numbers, when we combed through them, we found that there were very consistent patterns. Now, the best summary you can find of the patterns is in the book Fascinate, and the second edition, where we do a pretty in-depth review of the findings. Your second question was about the fact that some of the names changed. In the original version of Fascinate, which came out in 2010, which was the worst time to publish a high concept business book because we were just coming out of a horrible recession. Nobody cared about how to be fascinating. They just wanted to know how to feed their kids. The names in the original book, passion was lust, and innovation was vice. And at that time, the concept of fast, I was still new to it myself. I was still inventing it. It was more of a Malcolm Gladwellian style of book. And lust is about the connection that you feel not necessarily positively. And so there were a lot of people that they were put off of the system when we were applying it to themselves as individuals.
So much crossover with the 7 deadly sins there.
Yeah, a little bit. No, definitely a tip of the hat there.
Yeah.
And that the original version of Fascinate was very dark. There was a lot, like orgasm, the ultimate version of being fascinated, and how to pick someone up in a strip bar. And if you can still find a copy, go for it. But the reason why we changed it is because the fundamental concept and the research behind it still stood. It was still credible. We just needed to kind of rebrand that so that people felt like it wasn't a stigma if they were walking around a conference with the word lust
on their
ice.
chest. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that. And what's really funny is people with primary innovation, they loved Vice being. I mean, these were early days. This was, gosh, when the Fascinate test was, still like in utero. They loved Vice. People who are rebellious love being identified as being rebellious, but it's very off-putting to John the Good Citizen, who is trust and alert.
Right. Interesting. So you kind of made it a little bit more family friendly in a way.
Yeah, and there's an argument that I watered it down, but I also I never want to commercialize what I'm working on, because to a certain degree it's art and science, but it is also, if you have in your business and in your messaging, if there's a massive barrier to adoption and people feel like they don't want to be associated with something that is valuable for them, then you got to pick your battles.
That's a really good point. I mean, there's a level of creativity in your expression, your creation of books or products or courses or speeches, and like you can go outside the lines to a certain point and have it be cool. But if you go too far outside the lines, like, it can be not cool.
I'm going to show you an example, and I want to introduce you to Danielle, the fabulous Danielle.
Hello, hey, Danielle, what's going on?
Danielle, can you grab me a copy of Radical Careering right there? I coming from the world of advertising, I had I would always, before working with a client initially, I would always say, you're going to get hate mail. And if you're not getting hate mail, it's not working. Because if you're not polarizing, if you're trying to fascinate everybody, you're fascinating nobody. The purpose of marketing is to sell, but the purpose of a big idea is to be able to help people change the way they think. I don't mean to distract, but this is the world of ADHD that I want to be able to show you something. In my very first book, I intentionally put in a woman's naked breast with a nipple and a baby just starting to latch on to breastfeed. And I put it in there intentionally because I wanted to say, if a woman's breast with a baby latching onto the nipple is going to put you off, then this really isn't the right brand, because the name of the book is Radical Careering, not Milquetoast Careering.
Right.
And here was the image. Whoop, there. So we may have to so what happened was people loved the book, and they would go to their boss and say, we should get 1,000 of these so that we can share them within the company. And then flipping through, and I've got nipples and sledgehammers and that was probably one that I could have lost that battle to win the war.
That's right. That's funny. All right, cool. All right, next question. I work in Europe with the Fascination system.
Yay.
Now the system is based on American research. I myself do see differences resulting from culture.
Yes.
Is it a consideration to repeat a similar research in Europe? If so, with whom can this be discussed?
Ooh. First of all, that's exciting, and I love hearing. Europe is really a key part of that understanding, especially like if we take Germany, for example. In Germany, there are different cultural norms, and I don't want to make stereotypes, but Americans tend to interact in a way that's like intruding on each other's space and differently. So Germany tends to have less passion, more mystique, more prestige. I would say we've moved beyond the original research that was done was to understand that when you put out a signal or cue, intentionally or unintentionally, that you're going to have an effect on your listener, whether they realize it or not. So how do we interpret that? That tends to be very universal. The new research that we're doing is more focused around pilot programs, like going into organizations and finding out what are the ways in which an anthem can help a 60-year-old financial advisor connect with millennials. So that original Kelton research was a springboard for helping to build the system. But it is important that when we look at averages, that whether you're looking at national US averages or global averages. And so when you see us when we deliver, say, a pie chart or a bar graph, that's using the entire Fascinate population, only part of which is from the US. It would be interesting for us to do that geographically, don't you think? Like Australia, Africa, certainly South America.
Yeah,
Asia.
I mean, yeah, there's all sorts of, it would be really interesting to see heat maps of all 50 states.
Yeah. You know what? I totally geek out on some of the specifics, and something that like a little pet project that I do sometimes is I like to look at we've got this amazing dashboard of data, 1.5 million users over the course of the last decade. And I'll look up, the name John versus the name Zane. So imagine you're going into our portal and you do a search for every John in our system as a first name. They're far more likely to have primary trust.
Right.
And Zane going to have farm, and then that opens up a whole which comes first. What is it, by naming the kid, or is it that the type of parents who would name Zane versus John have different child rearing?
Right. Yeah, no, labels, they make a difference one way or the other.
Names. So I was just reading this article about this woman. Her and her legal name is Marijuana Pepsi.
Oh, come on.
Her given name. And throughout school,
marijuana Pepsi.
Marijuana, no, like the word, like
marijuana Pepsi.
Or 20.
Oh, I thought I thought it was a play on words. All right.
Well, there's we have Mary Jane Lane, right?
No, but literally marijuana.
Literally Marijuana Pepsi, her legal name. I mean, Google it. And so her teachers always wanted to change her name, so they weren't saying marijuana, and they wanted to change. And she stood fast on being true. With the name Hogshead, I can certainly passionately understand, but I admire that. If there's something about you that makes you different, that's going to be polarizing, think carefully before you dumb it down and water it down, because we're talking about her. So I hope she's getting good karma, or at least a puff of smoke wherever she is.
Right. All right, let's see. Do you want to keep going through this lightning round, or should we go on to some other people's questions, since there are some other folks that have written in? What do you think?
Why don't we switch off? I mean, I certainly broke the 30-second rule. And that's the joy of spontaneity. So we can go on to other questions, and then come back to them, because, so I'm going to visually show it. Renee's questions. Okay, these are the questions. I think there were maybe 3 pages of them.
Yeah, there are more pages now, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, 3 pages. From Renee.
Renee wrote in 18 questions. Yeah.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for thinking so thoughtfully and deeply about the science behind this, that when a topic is named Fascinate, there are 2 things. One is you can get the URL for anything, because nobody can spell Fascinate correctly. So that's why we have all the best Fascinate-based URLs. Including fascinate.xxx, which I'm told is the most valuable URL on our system. But the other thing is, the word fascinate has sometimes a negative connotation, that people think of it as kind of fluffy banter. And so I've really had to, I've had to build up, no, this is a different, we're shifting the lens through which you're seeing this concept, or this neurological ability that you have to almost hypnotize people, to spellbind them.
Very cool. So I guess I thank you for writing all those questions, and I think
thank you, Renee.
We will answer them in the future, because we have so many people who
she should get her own AMA. That's what I'm saying.
I know. It's just Renee AMA. Okay, cool. This one's coming in from Greg Porter, and he says, In listening to multiple videos, it seems Fascinate is most beneficial for team building within a common organization. How strong of a difference can it provide for the one person who fulfills nearly all those roles himself? Is there
You know what?
basically, how does this apply to solopreneurs? Is really what he's asking.
It absolutely applies to solopreneurs and small business owners and smaller teams of one or two people. And I think the reason why that perception is out there that it's really focused more on teams is because teams have helped us to build our company by helping us do a ton of the research behind how people interact on a team, trying to hire according to similarities instead of differences. Interestingly, and Telman can back me up on this, we're actually shifting the focus to be more on the entrepreneur, solopreneur, and small business owner. Because if you're in a large organization and you have a huge budget, your constraint is the quality of your messaging. But if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, small business owner, every decision you make has a much larger effect. So to answer your question, as an entrepreneur, in a sense, usually the entrepreneur and their brand tend to be pretty similar. You know, Fascinate has a lot of the same characteristics that I do as the founder. And so being able to see you as an individual, what are the ways in which you can apply? Remember that, like, here's commodity, here's mildly interesting, but there's this 1%. What is yours that you can invest that brings you energy and confidence so that when you are delivering, when you're delivering your product's message, that you feel focused and in the flow? How do we help you keep out of those areas? Like for me, it's expense reports. How do we make sure that you are defining yourself so succinctly that you're not just different, you're not just better, but you become the best in the eyes of your ideal consumer?
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Sally. Really, really good. Um, Grayson Fox, who you answered his question a few questions ago, says
Yeah.
thanks. And I'm going to post this question coming in from Jeanette. Jeanette says, how can I use my archetype to pivot into a new career? I'm the evolutionary. This is a question for Sally.
The evolutionary, if I'm remembering correctly, is only 0.8% of the Fascinate population. The evolutionary and its twin, the artisan, are extraordinarily rare. In fact, it's so rare that I want to make sure I get your adjectives right. The evolutionary is I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Remember, it's been 2 years since I've done a live thing. It is, oh, help me out here. Oh, yes, trust and innovation. Trust, a trust personality is about consistency and stability. Innovation is about changing the game, pushing people to think differently, and developing new ideas. So for you, I want you to think, as you're looking for a new job, Jeanette, I want you to think of it like a switch, like the old-fashioned switch on a washing machine. There's the trust part of you that when you're in that mode, that you are following up, that you are calm, cool, and collected, and that you're communicating that you're going to be able to actually execute and implement. But then let's switch it over here on the other side, your innovation. That means that you see the box, but you don't have to stay within the box, that you can develop new ideas. And what's great about this is during a time that we're in right now where employers want to be able to maximize every little bit of goodie that they can get with each person on their team, you're basically a 2-for-1 deal. I call your archetype, as an evolutionary, I call it a combo platter, because there are two. If we were looking at the advantages on a color wheel, trust and innovation would be polar opposites. Similarly, the intrigue is a combo platter because it's mystique and passion. If you were looking at it on a color wheel, mystique's over here, passion's over here, and so it gives you a huge advantage. Here's the downfall that I caution you against: you can't be all things to all people. If you try to be all things to all people, you are nothing to anyone. So you have to be conscious about which mode you're communicating in, because if you're flip-flopping, not strategically, just knee-jerkingly, it confuses people about who you are and the value that you deliver. In the interview, you might want to communicate with the calm of trust, but also demonstrate that you bring new ideas. And then on the job, allocate accordingly. But congratulations on your 0.8 of the population, and the artisan is like 0.7.
Cool. Let's see. I got one from Karen. Here we go. Karen asks several questions, but we're going to start with one. And she says, "Oh, do you see it?"
No, yes, no, it's good. It's a beautiful question.
I'm talking to someone who's a grief counselor, and she's battling to find an anthem as a catalyst because she feels the adjectives are too upbeat for handling grief in corporate. Any suggestions?
I do have suggestions. You know, as I mentioned, I've taken a step back, and I was on sort of a sabbatical, Sally-batical, for a couple of years. And the reason is that I lost my father, and then my mother, and then our son within about 18 months. And so grief is something that I have spent a lot of time thinking about, and even more so feeling about. And I'll give you an example of how I applied me being a catalyst. When my mom went into the hospital and essentially never came out, and it was one of the most difficult thing I've ever experienced. But every day, we had a whiteboard in her room, and we would put what we were celebrating that day about her. My mom loves ice cream. So when she was in the ICU one night, the team had done an incredible job of keeping her alive. And I went down to the employee cafeteria, and I bought every tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And I gave them to the staff and said, I want you to know my mom, even though she's unconscious. I want you to know her, because her favorite thing is ice cream. And now you're experiencing that. So even though you're not talking with her, you're still connecting with her. And the same thing happened when she came home, and we blessedly, we could tell she would be passing in a couple of days. So the whole family was there. My brother and my sister and I were literally in bed with her, holding her. And me as the catalyst, bringing that energizing connection. We knew she was going to pass, so we thought, well, what are her favorite experiences? And for her, Christmas dinner was a big deal. So my brother, my sister, and I, and all the grandkids, we went down to the dining room. We brought up the dining room table. We set it for Christmas, and we sang to her. And at that point, she wasn't really able to communicate with us, but we talked about how we were going to celebrate our Christmases in the future. And so it was deeply meaningful. It was certainly a state of grief. And I'm not suggesting that you sing Christmas carols or do it blithely without intention. But there's a lot of significance in grief of any kind, that if you can give people emblems of it or celebration of it, for my dad, that was, we blew up wedding photos of my parents who'd been married 68 years and put them all over the hospital room. So he felt connected to us, even though he couldn't speak at that time.
Wow. Cool. So, Sally, we said we were going for 45 minutes. We've been going for 48 minutes.
Okay.
We have more questions to answer than we've asked.
Let's do a couple more. Right?
So, yeah, like, you want to go to like the top of the hour?
Sure. Yeah. I'm gonna shake things up with protein drink.
Shake it up. All right. Cool. We got a question in. It's actually a really good one. It's just a kind of a beginning, just got involved question, I think, from Reverend Marilyn Miller. And Marilyn asks, I would like to know what are the first steps to start using the information and the type we are.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. I appreciate that you, as being in the clergy, that you are seeing the way to apply it, because for nobody is it more important to build authentic connections and to feel fully in the moment, to be present with the people that you're with. There's so many ways to engage with the conversations that you have, I imagine. The very first step is to understand that there's an aspect of you that you've always had your entire life that has been the primary reason why people respect you and admire you and feel comforted by you and fall in love with your ideas and your message. And I want you to think of it like a channel of communication, almost like a radio dial. There's a channel of communication that for you feels natural. And that when you are able to communicate in that channel, your primary advantage, that means that you are going to be on the ball. You have the highest likelihood of making the most difference with the most number of people. And so this is going to require maybe a little bit of discipline for you, but I want you to think about the interactions that you've had that have been most successful over the course of not just your career, but your life. And I want you to think of your primary advantage is like a string of lights that connects all of those. It's not random why sometimes you communicate with somebody and it makes a significant difference. It's not a mistake. You can really predict it. So the first thing is to look at where in your life you have had success using your primary advantage. Now I'm going to just bonus round. Step number 2 is look at where you're not communicating in that way. I have primary passion. So when I create a context in which what people need most from me is to be able to provide energizing communication, I have a much higher likelihood of succeeding than if what they need is meticulous follow through. I can do meticulous follow through, but it's very expensive emotionally and intellectually. And so, like I said, for you, for nobody is it more important than for you to be able to take that first step. And sometimes you have to consciously do it, like, I was a little bit nervous joining our conversation today, and Telman was like, guys, it's been 2 years. And he had this great phrase, break the seal. Like, it's like just put on your bathing suit and jump in the water. Everything's fine. I had to remember, what I'm feeling is alert. What I'm feeling is I'm a little bit nervous. I haven't done this for a while. Is technology going to be okay? But I know that I'm not going to be able to connect with you if I'm using that radio frequency of alert. So thank you again for the work that you do. And I hope that as many people as possible get to benefit from your primary advantage.
Cool. All right. We got a question in from Clarissa. And
hi, Clarissa.
For some reason, I think I know who that is.
I feel like I've heard that name.
Clarissa says, as an anchor, my primary and secondary advantage are not stereotypically fascinating in a classic extrovert-oriented world. Thoughts?
Yes. I'm going to tell you a little secret. Creating a system like the Fascinate system, it does have to evolve. It's important for it to be able to see what resonates and what doesn't. In the original version of Fascinate, before I created the Fascinate test, I actually scored people on a scale of 100 according to how fascinating they are, and I was doing it so 100 was too fascinating. Somebody that it's like, whoa, like car accident, like the fascinating, but not necessarily in a good way. Maybe in a certain context, somebody needs to be that brash and brazen and in your face. And then low scorers were people that did not have the ability to get and keep attention. And what I realized, it's really not this, it's this. The Fascinate system has no value judgment about which advantage is better and which one's worse. It's all a matter of what problem are you trying to solve. And Clarissa, a little secret that I know about you, since we're on the same team, is that you are deeply admired and frequently applauded for your ability as a project manager, as an anchor, to be able to hold the team together when others of us, Telman and me, maybe a little bit more chaotic, where we're talking about what we could do, and you're like, okay, what are we actually going to do?
That's right. That's right.
So fascination is the neurological focus of being able to maintain somebody's attention and for you to be able to completely engage. For you, it's deeply valuable and intensely valuable. In fact, if I remember correctly, today you were officially assigned at howtofascinate.com email address, which means you're treasured and irreplaceable with our team, specifically for your trust and mystique.
Cool. Great response.
Positive reinforcement, my primary passion. So thank you.
That's right. Cool. Let's see. I mean, this is kind of related. Similar question, different application. So this is from Julia, and Julia says, I'm a wise owl. How can I use mystique to attract female coaching clients that want support clearing trauma?
You know, but I feel you. Her name's Julia.
Julie.
Okay. Sorry. Julie, that's a very sophisticated question, and I appreciate you asking that. There are a lot of okay. So we know the concept in the pop culture, big dick energy, that there are certain ways of interacting that for some people feel like maybe it's a little too assertive or potentially even abrasive. You, on the other hand, provide a completely different mode of communication that gives women a sense of safety, because mystique is based on listening, especially with trauma. Imagine with trauma, there's so much packed in there. There's so many layers to overcome. And if you were to come right out of the gate as a power personality, or even me as a passion personality, okay, tell me what went wrong. Let's mine it and explore it. I would not necessarily have the advantage that you do by bringing the energy level down a little bit so that you are not the star of the show, that you're allowing the other person to come forth at their own pace. It's not that there's one advantage that's better or worse for a career, but you absolutely have an advantage in the area of somebody feeling threatened, feeling broken, feeling like they really need to trust the person they're talking to before they can open up and have that breakthrough.
Awesome. Great question, Julie. Here's another question from Victoria Branson, and I'll pop it in the chat here in a second, but Victoria says, one of my clients has received the intrigue archetype. I'm scheduled to have a session with her soon and would appreciate some guidance on how passion can coexist with mystique.
Yeah.
They seem like opposites.
Yes. My pet term is it's a combo platter, because it's two seemingly oppositional modes of communication together in one person. If your client is an intrigue, my recommendation, well, it would be helpful for me to know if it's possible for me to find this out, what archetype she is. Oh, Victoria, are you able to type in there what you are?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that Victoria is on with us live because she emailed.
That's okay. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so intrigues tend to have reserved body language. They usually present first with mystique, and they tend to not be overindulgent in their enthusiasm. But the closer that you get to them, the more solidly they become entrenched in your relationship. And that's when the passion really starts to come out. The reason why I named that archetype the intrigue is because it's intriguing which mode they're going to use, because they have such a wide variety of emotional response. The original name for the archetype, the intrigue, which is mystique passion, the original was fire and ice. But intrigues didn't like fire and ice because it was too showy for them. So tamped it down. The twin of the intrigue is the subtle touch, which is mystique passion, and the intrigue is passion mystique. If you know the archetype of the person that you're talking to, extremely helpful for you to set up how you're going to communicate the message. You're going to use bullet points, or you're going to use flashy visuals. If we have an awesome ebook named How to Read People, and Telman, I would love for us to be able to include, if even just an excerpt of that, because it's essentially a chart if you don't know what their archetype is, they haven't done the test, how do you read them like a scan so that you can be prepared? It's a requirement when I'm working with a client that anybody who's going to be on the call has to do the test before I communicate with them, because I want to be able to instantly build resonance. I want to impress and influence them. And I could be way off base if I come on the call like a sloppy Labrador retriever, the way I tend to do when I'm excited. That's just not in the best interest of the long-term relationship. I have to modulate that.
So there's an ebook called Fascinate ebook called How to Read People. I think I've seen it, but I don't think I've read it.
Well, we keep it locked away. It's one of my favorite things, but we keep it locked away for special occasions. But maybe we could,
maybe today's one of those
you and I could have an evil scheme to safe crack it.
Well, like what if we came up with one right now?
Okay. How to read people is a pretty good subject line. I think we should do that as a broadcast to make that available, because what I'm told is that it's in sales terminology, it's the equivalent of a warm read.
Great. So we should totally do it.
Yeah. Another form of that is, I always do research on somebody before I have a call with them, just looking at their facial expression. What do they use adjectives in their LinkedIn profile? Do they tell stories about their kids, or do they just repost political facts? You can learn a lot about somebody by intelligently decoding how they are intentionally or unintentionally communicating who they are.
All right, we'll check it out. So here's what we're going to do. If you type the word fascinating into the comments, and or ask a question. This is an AMA after all. If you haven't asked a question yet, either ask your question in the comments or type the word fascinating and share this video. Share this post everywhere you possibly can. So those are your two instructions. Share this and type the word fascinating or a question into the comments, and we will give you a link. It's not ready yet. We're going to create it in the next week, probably sooner. Okay, we're going to create it in the next week.
Way to under promise and over deliver.
Okay. And we're going to give you a copy of the Fascinate ebook called How to Read People. And if you share this video post everywhere you possibly can and type the word fascinating or your question for the AMA, if you haven't already done it, and we will, the other thing that you can do is whatever channel you're watching this on, send us a direct message letting us know that you want the ebook, and we can get the link to you even faster when it's ready. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Type something in the comments, share this everywhere, DM us telling us you want the ebook, and we will get you a link here in the next week or so. That's a great idea, Sally. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. Do we want to do one more question?
Let's do one more.
Okay. I'm looking. This one is good, from Janet Bryant, and it really talks about taking the test and what happens over time. And so I'll put her question in specifically, but I know a lot of people ask about what happens over time with taking the test, and so very curious about what your thoughts. She says, I've taken the test multiple times over the course of my career as a research scientist and project manager.
Cool.
Prestige and power power/prestige versus prestige/power now in retirement. How are tiebreakers done, and is it usual to swap like this in retirement? Didn't this just happen to Teddy?
Yeah, Teddy was I think he was an avant-garde, now he's a trendsetter. Right. Yeah, so your twin is the same top 2 advantages, just in reverse order. And you can think of your twin as being a facet of yourself. It's the closest archetype to you that maybe at work like maybe I'm a catalyst at work and I'm a rock star at home. The question about over time, It was funny. People have been asking that since the day that the test was released, and it was it was like I have to be honest. I don't know. The test is only a year old, so I can't tell you how it changes.
Right.
Now, 12 years later, we can tell you. And here's what usually happens. You are going. Let's go here. You are going to slide across your primary advantage, or you're going to change down with your secondary, but you're not going to go from being a catalyst to being a detective. Taking it multiple times and having it be your twin indicates that you have a very consistent way of thinking. And in retirement, that would mean that you want to make sure you keep your standards high, that you're still active and involved, and that you have a context in which you can lead people and see the goal and have opinions. Over time, I've never seen. I mean, personally, I've never seen somebody change from. Remember thinking of it as you can almost think of this like the color wheel. Innovation is a diametric opposite of alert, so you're not going to go from innovation to alert.
All right, cool. Well, everybody, we have a massive pile of questions that remain unanswered. Thank you, everyone that wrote in questions, whether your question got answered today or not, first of all. And thank you, Sally. This was awesome. And we will, I hope, get to all your questions in the future. They're probably going to keep coming in. So thank you. I think Nicole or whoever it was for letting everybody know in the chat what they need to do. If you want that ebook, How to Read People, it's locked in the Fascinate vault, but you can get a copy. Type the word fascinating or your question into the chat. Share this video everywhere and send us a direct message or a private message, whatever platform you're on, letting us know that you want the ebook. It's just classic squeaky wheel. Gets the grease kind of situation. It's helpful. So if you really want it, let us know, and we'll get that to you. We'll get a link to you in the next week or so.
Yeah, and thank you, Tillman, for co-hosting with me. I enjoyed our fireside chat, and thank you to everybody who's joined us for this conversation. It's really meaningful to me to be able to pick back up on our conversations.
Awesome. I'm glad this worked out so well. Before we sign off, I would love to pop Nicole back on here and just check in and make sure that there's no last minute information we need before we sign out. Nicole, I know I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I'm doing this.
Hi.
I'm glad you're pretty good at rolling with it.
Hi.
Yeah.
All right, Nicole. Is there anything we need to know before we sign off?
No, lots of love and lots of exciting comments that we'll share after. But yeah, as you mentioned, we'll try to answer all those questions that weren't answered. Feel free to comment or DM us if you have any further questions. I'm around, especially in the Fascination Nation Facebook group. But yeah, no, thank you both so much. That was such a fun, informative chat, and let's do it again soon.
All right.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and week, and we'll see you very, very soon.
See you soon.
Cool.
Bye.